Yo, what's happening? Happy Halloween. You're hanging with the Beast on this Halloween evening, Monday, October 31st, obviously, and just doing a special episode based on holiday. And from the title, you could pretty much wonder what it's about. Just tying together the great, typo negative band and, Halloween music and October, how they all go hand in hand. At least to me, they do. I'm sure to everybody else. Anybody who's been a fan of the band or still is always knows that they obviously just like emulate Halloween, emulate October. Just look at one of their albums, Octoberrust, Green Man, Halloween in Heaven, what have you. So the two go hand in hand, and it's funny. I'm it's my favorite band by all means of all time, and I always find that around this time of year I really push for listening to them 10 times more than I usually do. It just feels natural. I've been doing that for years, man. Probably sound cliche because everybody else may or may not do the same. I don't know, but it's something I definitely do. And I've been recently. I was listening to a little bit of "Life Is Killing Me" and one of my favorite albums, which is "World Coming Down," which I always thought was underrated. I know. I think I read a couple of times that there were, I don't know, certain people that just didn't like it for whatever reason. Um, but like I said, nothing gets you in the mood for Halloween or October like their music, I feel. I mean, yeah, it's definitely good, all year round, but there's something about a lot of the songs that they produced that always kind of emulated Halloween. Obviously, like we were saying, the ones before with Green Man, just from listening to that, you kind of, the lyrics, you kind of can just imagine the fall, the changing of the colors, the leaves and whatnot, and then of course Halloween in Heaven, which was on their last album. And I've been listening, like I was saying, to I think early this week I was listening to "Life Is Killing Me," which man, it's a phenomenal album for so many reasons. I must have repeated the song "Anesthesia" over and over and over. When you go through the lyrics, that's one thing that's always captivated me about them as a group was the lyrics and the unique sound that they created. I had mentioned that on one of the other podcasts, but there's something in it that always kind of like brings together this time of year, the fall, the Halloween, the changing of the seasons, and October. I mean, they just go hand in hand. And obviously, a lot of the tones with some of the songs were dark, I guess, or some people would consider them that way. Because there was a lot of truth in those lyrics for whatever was going on per song. I feel like each song kind of had, its own story to tell for it, which, so many very intelligent songwriters and singers and bands do. They write these songs from personal experiences a lot of the times, and or some type of wishes or imaginary thing. But I think a lot of it comes from a real place, and that's one thing that's I've always loved about their music. I think I've said it before. They invented their own sound. They came up with their own sound, and listening to that album, especially that part in Anesthesia towards the end where you can hear the organ, really playing, and right before the great lyrics are 1,000 years worth a single smile. When you give an inch, will they take a mile to run and hide a cow? I actually just butchered it, but you get the point if you know what I'm talking about. It's just a wonderful collaboration of music and lyrics and tone. That's another thing that I always loved about them was the tone of the band. If you look at some of the artwork, uh, to like this obviously isn't Life Is Killing Me, but Octoberrust. It was I don't know. I always thought it was fascinating artwork. And then of course, picture on the back of the drab four, I should say. They really were a cohesive unit in all things. And I think sometimes, like in music, you see that a lot of bands don't do that, or they're changing it. They're changing it so much that you really can't follow a particular brand. But with them, It's one thing I always really liked about them was that they were their brand. They kind of wore it on their sleeve, and you have to have a lot of respect for that, man, because it was unique and it worked out wonderfully. You always see there are groups that sell out with that shit too, that aren't, or that go on to sell out later on. And I don't mean that in a positive way. I mean it in a bad way. And the funny thing is, fans know, objective fans know. This band in particular, never sold out in a bad way. They were always here. And it's funny too. I was thinking of them because I had just seen 2 weeks ago. I went to the Garden Spirits on Fire tour. I saw Smashing Pumpkins, Jane's Addiction, and this new artist I don't know anything about, Poppy, who's phenomenal. And I was humbled, thankful, and lucky to get the tickets for free from one of my best friends, Melanie BB Kitty 11. Special shout out to you. Chick wins concert tickets like I don't know, like it's going out of style. It's ridiculous, man. She just gets on the phone, answers the question, wins the tickets. But she knew that that was a show that I definitely wanted to go to, being that it's all great bands from the '90s and whatnot. But I was looking online at some of the ticket prices for that show. I know it was at a big venue at MSG, but the ticket prices were friggin' ridiculous. I don't know anyone can afford that. Week prior to that, again, thank you, Melanie. She had gotten tickets to see Johnny Depp and Jeff Beck at the Paramount in Long Island, and if you looked at prices on that, they were ridiculous. I mean, they were over $400, and a lot of the time you're standing up there. If you're sitting, it was even more money. One thing I always liked about Typo was that they always made their concerts affordable to fans, and I know that was something that was really important to them. I think Peter had mentioned that a couple times in an interview, and it also brings back remnants of what Kurt Cobain had said during the '90s when he was told about the price of tickets to a Madonna show. He was like starstruck by that, like what, like, or shocked, I should say, like how could that be? We only charge a certain amount of money. That's one thing I always respected, and I saw them 14 times, Typo Negative, so I know what I was paying. And the good thing was there was really no bad seat in house. There was really no bad standing position, wherever you were. It was affordable. It was great. That was another thing I really appreciated about them as a unit, as a band. But you know, just today being Halloween, it being the end of October, just kind of I figured I'd do a special segment all about them, and how it's. I just actually saw a post from the great Johnny Kelly, the drummer of Typo Negative, saying that something along the lines of how strange it is to be October on Halloween and not have a show. I mean, if you know anything about Typo Negative, man, this is the time of year when they were killing it. They were live. I had never seen them actually on Halloween, unfortunately, but I had seen them in October various times. Out of the 14 times that had seen them in concert, I think every time I saw them could have possibly been in October. And that was whether it was at the Roseland, which isn't there anymore, or whether it's at the one in Jersey. I always forget the name of this friggin' place. Um, and then there were 3 or 4 other places I saw them at. One of them used to be the old Exit. If you guys are familiar with clubbing, Exit Club is where I used to see them. Saw them there twice. It's not a dance club anymore. It was a concert venue, but I'd see them. I think I saw them at the PlayStation Theater too, or something like that in City. But yeah, they were all during October, which is really interesting. And actually, all great shows. I think it was like one of the few bands that I can say that I've seen over and over that were always phenomenal live. And it was nothing better than looking forward to the fall and the Halloween season in October, knowing that they were going to come around on tour. If they had been out touring and coming back to the States, I mean, that was always something to look forward to. You'd see the same faces at shows so many times. You recognize people, and you recognize new people who were really appreciative of the music and whatnot. So that was always great, man. It sucks that I had said this to myself recently driving. It sucks that we don't have that anymore, in real life. But I guess that's what we have the memories for and everything, and that's why I figured today would be just a cool day to just do the show basically about Typo Negative and how important their music was, and being this time of year, it's the typical season, man. And what's amazing is the fan base has just become amazing. I think it's like one of the most faithful, strongest fan bases I've ever seen when it comes to music. That was also a good thing I saw at the Smashing Pumpkin show, by the way. Speaking of fan bases, holy shit. I couldn't get over all the cats that came out to see Smashing Pumpkins who like fucking, you know, were deep, deep, deep into the band. It was amazing, man. Same thing I could say about when I saw Johnny Depp live. What a trip, man. Fan base. But this fan base, I think, has so many of them go back long before I became a fan of them, going back to the 80s when they were Repulsion and they were, after Carnivore, and, they were just getting their start in the 80s and then into the 90s and then, getting bigger and bigger. The fan base has always been there, very loyal fan base, which is great, man. Very unique fan base, without a doubt. So that's what I'm saying. Like, if you're part of that, that this time of year was always kick-ass, man. And, just having the chance to go revisit their catalog, I should say, so many times. Like I said, the artwork was always phenomenal to me, in its subtle ways or in its very, nothing extreme. Pictures of the fall, pictures of the trees in the cold there. Red Water is such a phenomenal song. Just looking at that. But yeah, like I said, all these songs bring back, just memories of Halloween, October, Green Man, Be My Druidess, what I think could be the best wedding song ever, Love You to Death, Cinnamon Girl, Die With Me, phenomenal song, My Girlfriend's Girlfriend. I don't know if you could can you get away with that today, you think? Could you make a song like that today with everything going on? I don't know. Hey, I think it's fit in no matter what. Burn Flowers Falling, obviously, In Praise of Bacchus, which by far, I was just listening to that like the other day. It's amazing to me when you revisit a song, no matter how many times you've listened to it, it gets better and better. And if you watch the video for the live In Praise of Bacchus in concert, or you listen to the song, the lyrics always grab me, man. Especially Lonely Blue Girl, God's the Riverbed. I think I said that in one of my previous podcasts. It took me forever to figure out that it was the friggin' Statue of Liberty. How dumb am I, right? But, Wolf Moon by far, one of my favorite songs. If anything emulates Halloween and like the October time, is definitely Wolf Moon. And then, of course, Haunted, which is in itself just, a phenomenal tune, very underrated. I had a friend who we were talking Type O Negative not too long ago. I haven't seen her in so long. Really, really, really cool human being. And she was saying that Haunted is by far one of her favorite songs. I was like, you know what you're talking about. It's so underrated. It's so lengthy. The sound keeps changing and everything. The lyrics. That's another thing I had talked about in the podcast about Type O Negative before too, was that the way they were able to kind of change the sound during the song. It had gone from one to another, and I'm sure, everybody would, I would hope everybody would, kind of agree. I guess maybe it's, I don't know, whatever. But like if you listen to Tripping a Blind Man or, several other of their songs, that they start off one way, it picks up, it goes back, it changes. That's another thing I always found really unique about them. They were one of the few bands that could do that. And that was really rare. Obviously, I'm always listening to this album without a doubt, man. Origin of the Feces. Sorry for the bright light there, bouncing off my screen. Always loved that picture of them in the back. That's a badass picture. Pete with the bass or whatever. There's another album, man, that, when I was younger, I always thought it was a real live album. But I remember my buddy and I were just like saying, I don't think it is. It doesn't. And we did figure out that it wasn't obviously a real live album, but been listening to this over and over and over. I've been sending songs from this album to people. I know you're fucking someone else. It's amazing when you send that song to someone who you really don't know too well. It does. I don't know, man. It's just a trip. They're like, what am I listening to? And then like, hey, that's not too bad. There's a song that starts here and then, travels somewhere else, which is always phenomenal. Are You Afraid? Gravity. Their version of Paranoid. That's another thing. It's really rare that a band is able to cover someone else's song and make it their own, whether it's Paranoid, Cinnamon Girl, If I Needed Someone on World Coming Down from the Beatles, of course. I was just having this conversation with my brothers, even back in the USSR, which I still feel could be one of the best cover songs ever done. they had that ability to do that, to cover music and make it better, in my opinion, make it their own. I don't want to say better because, whatever, people will say, well, you can't, but that's just my opinion. Like, I hate to say it, but if I'm going to listen to Back in the USSR, as much as I love and appreciate the Beatles, I'm going to listen to Type O Negative's version. That's just me. Same thing with Cinnamon Girl. As much as I love Neil Young's original version, I'm going to listen to Type O Negative's. I'm sorry. To me, it just sounded better and was better. But yeah, this was just a great album. And of course, my cover's broke, so don't mind me. But this was always, I thought, very interesting kind of badass thing they had going there. I was like, wow. I don't know today with everything that's going on. Express yourself, just say yes. Who knows if they, you could have got away with all this stuff back then. But again, great art. It was very individual, very very interesting to see what they were talking about, and just always very true and real to themselves, which I always really appreciated. What else? Really cool. I had met them at the when they first had this album came out. Sorry for the bright light there. It's basically Dead Again. They all signed it. Rasputin on the cover. Anyone know who these four chicks are on the front? I always wondered who they were. Mysterious looking young ladies. I don't know. Another phenomenal album, man. Their last album, obviously, unfortunately, like I said, Tripping a Blind Man. You've heard that changing of the sound. Prophet of Doom, especially, and again, long songs, sound changes, vocals change. That was the great thing about Peter, man. Great vocalist. Beyond all things, great vocalist, man. You can't duplicate that. You ever see these videos on YouTube of the people's first time listening to the album, listening to his voice? It is fucking hilarious to see. There's that opera singer who's listening to his voice, just kind of like mesmerized by how deep his voice is and how he was able to just get the sounds out. Again, you can't be duplicated. Halloween in Heaven, I mean, phenomenal song. September Sun, These Three Things, She Burned Me Down, Some Stupid Tomorrow. An ode to locksmiths is something I'm always listening to too. I don't know. I have them all on my playlist, but there are a certain few that I'm always like on repeat. One of them I can tell you for sure comes from, I think it was Todd's Shipyard, whatever. I always butcher the song. That's one of my favorite songs. I know. I think that was about Peter's dad working in the shipyard in Brooklyn there. That's always been one of my favorites. That always comes around on my playlist. I'll always hit that. It's just one of those songs, I think, that is just a phenomenal collaboration of music and lyrics and just the sound. That's another thing, too. The band was able to generate so many of these cool sounds in between songs, or like it would take up a track on the album, or it would become like the individual thing. Each album kind of had it, and they always, at first, I'm like, what the fuck is that shit? But they always like kind of were very interesting. Like, in the beginning of that song, I love that you hear you can hear the boats in the harbor, that sound. And if you've, I guess, ever, lived in the Brooklyn area or been by the water, by the Verrazano Bridge, you hear that shit religiously. So that's a lot of realism there. He had the same thing on Green Man, right? With the garbage truck. You can hear like the pickup truck. I didn't know what that was at first. It took my buddy forever. He's like, no, that's the garbage truck. I'm like, oh shit, I never knew that. So that's something I always appreciated. Again, like that's real musicianship, really caring about the art you're putting out there, in terms of the sounds, the music, the lyrics, and everything as a great collaboration. I mean, again, it's rare. And I bring them up only because they come to mind, but I also saw that in Billy Corgan and the Smashing Pumpkins, like them too, very deep into their art, very deep into what they are as a unit, especially him, because I know he had the band at a time when there wasn't no Jimmy Chamberlain, no James Iha, so he carried on that in name, I think, by himself or with some other band members. But again, it's very rare that you see that, and it's funny. So mmany people, I think, would wonder, like, someone had asked me this not too long ago. Do you think that they would ever come around again? And look, I had said this before. When you have bands such as like the Great Alice in Chains, great Lane Staley Passes, the Great Stone Temple Pilots, the Great Soundgarden, for me, I can't go and see these bands anymore. That's just me. That doesn't mean I wouldn't. I may, But I'm so used to Scott Weiland, Lane Staley, the great Chris Cornell. I don't think those voices could ever be duplicated, I should say. I feel the same way about Typo Negative and Peter Steele. I hate to say it, though, out of those bands, I would still go back and see Typo Negative, even if they came back around again with, obviously it's not Peter, but just because I love the music so much, I love the band. I would just be interested to see what they would sound like. But again, I don't think that, those things, they can't be duplicated. So for me, I could never go and just, I have that lead singer in my head, and it's just a certain sound, the way it sounds. Other people go see them all the time. I think that's great, man. I'm sure they're still from, obviously wonderful bands, especially like the great musicians that they have, like especially in terms of Alice in Chains, Jerry Cantrell or Kim Dial from Soundgarden, or whether it's Stone Temple Pilots, the DeLeo brothers, Eric Kretz, phenomenal musicians. But I couldn't see that happening. And it sucks too, because like I said, October, Halloween, and we don't have that anymore, man. And it makes you appreciate, the sound, the music that was out there at the time, and it makes you miss it, and it makes you just go back to it even more, which is always a good thing. So a nice combination of everything. What else? What else? What else? What else? I don't know. I went to that giveaway that time they had at Duff's when they were giving out the red version of this. Really cool. It had the extra, the Santana song on it, which was interesting. And of course, obviously, one of their greatest albums of all times, Bloody Kisses. I'm always listening to this. I was just sending a couple of these songs to people. Obviously, Sal Brusciato on the back, not Johnny Kelly, but again, this is the album that did it for me, man. I was a believer. I was a buyer. I was in, man, with that. The lyrics, I had never heard anything like that before. And to this day, I like sending those songs to like first time listeners. And like I said, a lot of times they're blown away by how great the lyrics are. They want to know what's going on, what's up with his voice. His voice is really unique, but they get into it a lot of the time. And that, it's like I said, it's bittersweet that we don't have that no more from the band. But like I said, it's good that the memories you always have, which is always a great thing. Two of the albums I have in my car I don't have here: World Coming Down and Life Is Killing Me, which by far two of my favorites. Like I said, Anesthesia, like I mentioned before, is a song I always keep going back to. Another tune that is so underrated is How Could She? The lyrics in that are phenomenal. I remember first hearing that, and I'm like, oh wait, he's talking about all the people from TV, man. That's fucking great. Again, like you that type of art in music, I think is so rare, and I don't think it'll ever come around again, man. For just not that way. It's very rare. And it's funny too, with so many of these bands that were so big in the '90s. Like I said, Stone Temple Pilots still going, Alice in Chains still going, Jane's Addiction, who were phenomenal, by the way, in concert. Live, I'm going to be seeing soon. All these bands, man, it would have been the one thing about Typo would have been, I don't think they would have been on hiatus. They would have kept going and going and going. It's always great to see these bands keep going, putting out new music, revisiting their old stuff, and especially in a time when vinyl has come back. I wish videos would come back, man. We need videos. But I don't know. This was always a really cool piece too. I was really happy to get this. I think they still sell this. It was the Typo Negative hoodie. On the bottom it says "Only the Dead Know Brooklyn." Yeah, man. Especially this time of year, I start sporting this. You want to laugh? I went to a show at Westbury. Old school show with my parents, my family, and friends. I love old school shows, man. I love concerts. I love music of all kinds. Someone goes, "That's a really interesting hoodie. I really love the picture of Brooklyn. Who is that?" And I was explaining it to them. They were really intrigued by that. So, yeah, man. Halloween time, Typo Negative, October, always a special time of year, no matter what. I give anything to have a concert to go to this evening. Typo Negative headlining. That'd be great. It was funny. We were talking. My brother and I were talking at the Stone Temple Pilots at the Smashing Pumpkins concert about how great it would be to have a '90s fest all bands from the 90s and together for like a 3-day fest. I don't think any place really has them. New York sure shit don't have them anymore, which really sucks here. But it'd be great, man, because there are so many great bands still going. Um, you know, still doing it, man. Like it was yesterday. Like it, Tool, another one. If you get a chance, check out the Joe Rogan Experience. He had Maynard James Keenan on, and he had Anthony Kiedis on. Two phenomenal musicians, two phenomenal artists who were, obviously you guys know this, still huge now, humongous during the 90s. So again, it's so great to see all this stuff keep recycling itself, because it's so important. Because not to be a dick, but I don't know what else we really have in terms of music these days anymore. Like, it's very hard to find good, unique music. It's there, I believe, but you got to be an archaeologist to really find it. Because again, radio play is so different now. It's satellite radio. There's no videos. There's none of these concerts really anymore where you go and you kind of like, get like 5 or 6 bands that are kind of unheard of and they're on the way up, whatever. They don't have blocks anymore that they play certain nights. Certain stations don't, do that as much. But, you can find it, man. If you listen to Lithium, if you listen to Octane, or so many other of those great stations on Sirius and whatnot. It is there. You just have to find it. It's a lot. It's got to do a lot of work, man. You got to do the Indiana motherfucking Jones thing. You know what I'm saying? Which is all good. But yeah, man. Like I said, it's Halloween. All I'm thinking about right now, obviously, is either fucking Michael Myers or fucking or Type O Negative, man. That sound just is always in my brain, during this time of year, and then some. Um, so again, just a special segment to kind of talk about the special day, special time of year with the band. I'm sure all fans would agree that you know special day with just thinking how everything came together, man. And you know what? You really got to appreciate what we had as fans while they were together. I mean, they put out so much great work that is timeless, in my opinion, and is still ultra unique all these years later. Um, Unique in that not everybody's going to understand it. Unique in that people are going to question it, but nothing short of wonderful and fabulous. That's why the fan base is so rich and faithful, man. It's been that way for so long, which is great. So I know that I see them putting out some other. I think they had put out on the Type O Negative side. I saw they were doing. I forgot what album. It's coming back on vinyl with all these like or CD too. It was coming back, revisiting around. They were going to do some. There's like certain amount of minutes of cuts. I'm probably butchering all this, but I'm just going from what I had seen. You could check it out on the Type O Negative page on Instagram, which is really cool. That's interesting when they put out a new version of an old album with all the outtakes, which must be really cool, songs that didn't make it, which is really interesting. I had read that so many times in an interview about the songs that didn't make it to albums that were supposed to, and it's really cool. I don't know the title of the Type O Negative pages. There's so many of them on Instagram, but they actually have what I think are actual excerpts from certain band members, and they talk about experiences in the past like that. There's some great interviews out there too. With the band members. You can find them anywhere. Always interesting, especially as you go through the years and whatnot. You work your way all the way up to the 2000s and whatnot. So it's always interesting. Like I said, it's great to see just such a deep appreciation for the music. I know they had. I think it was. They had like a get together at Peter's Tree, as they usually do, which is kind of cool. And they have family members and friends come out, remembrance and whatnot. That's really nice, man. I mean, the band is beloved. Like I said, Halloween, October, and Brooklyn are 3 things that always come to mind with Type O Negative, man. By far my favorite band of all time, man. So I appreciate you guys listening, man. I'll be coming back at you with some new stuff soon, as I do on this podcast. And always down to talk music from the '90s. Hit me up any which way you can, whether it's Facebook or Instagram. Comments, compliments. You want to tell me to fucking go eat a skunk or some shit like that? That's all good too. But yeah, man. Enjoy your Halloween this evening, man. Watch something good. Watch something scary, like scary, like the first Insidious, the original Exorcist, the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Although the remake was really good with the hottie Jessica Alba running around in a tank top. Damn, she looked good. I gotta find something scary to fucking watch that actually like makes me not want to shut the lights at night. Because if it ain't like that, then it ain't worth watching. The original Poltergeist is still badass and whatnot, but all right, that's about it for now, man. Happy Halloween. Enjoy. I'm out.